I can begin. I can start if it's okay for you.
Yes, you can start.
Yeah, thank you very much. So thank you, Frank. Thank you, MNHN, for inviting me, making this webinar. So first of all, sorry for my approximate Franglish. I hope this will be quite okay for you to understand what I want to say, and I will try to do my best to be understandable. And I think in 20 minutes max, I can give my presentation, and please don't hesitate to comment after that and post question or things like that. Thank you. So I'm Yvan from the French National Museum of Natural History, and I will present you a project I lead in France. It's a research infrastructure project called Pôle National de Données de Biodiversité, so PNDB, who can be translated like a French Biodiversity Data Hub. And in particular, I want to make a special focus on the Galaxy E project, a web platform for collaborative data analysis in ecology. I just showed two different pictures because I am part of a team of a research unit in Paris, in France, but I am my office is on the Marine Lab in Concarneau in Brittany, and you can see a picture of the lab here just on the sea. So, yeah, it's okay for you. The slides are changing. So, yes. The context. A first horrible graph to present you what is PNDB. This research infrastructure is something quite interesting because it's like a hat on all existing French biodiversity-related research infrastructure on the left on this picture, and it is also an interface with Earth systems research infrastructure related to climate or remote sensing data research infrastructures. We have to build, and we are building links towards international initiative, for example, with GEO, as you know, maybe PNDB is the French BON, and is also leading an EBV operationalization pilot based on Galaxy for ecology. So I will speak a little bit about that after that. And we are also part of a Neurogeos action group named Biodiversity and Ecosystem, where once again we are proposing this infrastructure based on Galaxy in this group. We have strong links with RDA and recommendation, particularly related to application of FAIR principles. And we are just now, I am speaking from Leiden in Netherlands, where I will present tomorrow the Biodiverse Gopher implementation network I am leading with GBIF France. So just to give you a big picture of what is PNDB, it's an infrastructure who will promote existing services and products related to data and metadata, but also providing new services, and notably related to metadata aggregation and to data analysis. And the goal of PNDB is really to work on a fair manner and to promote the FAIR principle, so for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data and research objects in general. Concerning this fairization in ecology, I think we have to follow two levers. The first level is a necessary first global fairization, where we have to give access to a maximum of transparent and usable data and related research digital objects. So it's also speaking about algorithm tools, workflow, protocols, data management plan, and things like that, and to a wide range of users as citizens, policymakers, scientists for sure, and areas managers. There is also, I think, a wonderful opportunity in the ecology field to work on fairization, on this gold standard, working on EBV concept and biodiversity indicators production where we can see that we can propose to give access to EBV datasets, to EBV workflows, to scientists, but also to other type of peoples. And there is just a little picture coming from the EBV operationalization pilots here, where we describe a little bit more what we want to do with this approach based on this workflow operating system using Galaxy. Just to present biodiversity data and fair K challenges, for me there's two main things to deal with. First of all, there is in ecology a main difficulty. It's not only in ecology, it's to associate structured and detailed metadata to biodiversity data. And to do that concerning data, we have to go towards open data and linked data concepts. And concerning metadata, the goal is to go towards better description, better detailed, complete description of data to support the reanalysis of the data. And for example, typically having the possibility to reproduce results published in articles. And another important things we have to consider is to facilitate the use, the addition of control vocabularies like ontology and thesaurus inside our metadata when we are describing our data sets. A second big thing, I think, it's related to this lack of open source and freely available service in a workflow-oriented infrastructure that supports curation, sharing, and collaboration. This is something we can see in several papers, and notably EBV-related papers like Kissling et al. In 2017, sorry. And there is several things where we can try to evaluate what is existing for now regarding accessibility of software algorithm, free access, transparency, reproducibility, the flexibility on use on your computer, on HPC facilities or on the cloud. One main issue maybe in ecology is a lot of services are using web service-based tools and following Inspire directive or standards who are not always and often really good to do what we have to do with data. And sometimes it's quite a problem of usability of script. We have to have computing skills to use R or Python or things like that, or HPC cluster. And it's not so easy to contribute to existing project or tools and other things who are important. I think it's related to creating or supporting user communities and contributors communities too. Regarding existing projects, notably in Europe for H2020 project like GEO for Wildlife, are quite well known, or other projects more dedicated to marine biology and using for this infrastructure virtual research environment project using D4Science or G-Cube solution. There is really a difficulty to address these challenges. And for now, there is a project called COESRA in Australia, who is really interesting, but once again, there is difficulty to address all these challenges. So PNGB proposals. We have the first role is to give access to tools, access to data, to metadata, but also we want to structure and to curate existing, what I can call research objects. For example, regarding metadata, I mentioned it before, but the idea is to go toward a more complete description of metadata. Regarding code and, for example, R scripts, the idea is to take this homemade, not shareable and unreproducible R scripts and try to package tools and dependencies in a way that we can reuse it quite easily in different kind of infrastructure. And there is also this idea of curation, how we can take private code and go towards communities who are creating and sharing codes and ameliorating these codes. And it is quite the same also for the metadata, where we can have an addition, precision of metadata by the crowd, for example, or by experts. So if I just show you rapidly what I'm thinking now regarding data and metadata things, there is really importance using existing standards, for example, and I think EML, ecological metadata language, is really one of the best things we can use in ecology, and make strong links with existing Inspire or other standards is important. There is also this this importance of using data package like EDE. I don't know if you know this environmental data initiative. It's really interesting. Because for now in ecology, we are in biodiversity related communities, we are really using often data sets, and sometimes we describe metadata, but often data and metadata are not related one with each other, and it's quite difficult to recreate the links between data and metadata. And the use of data package or things like NetCDF format is really a good idea to have this stronger link between metadata and data. And there is also other initiatives coming from bioinformatics, for example, like HISA Archive or HISA tools, which is quite interesting because it's quite flexible. It's related to tabular files, so we can use it like an Excel spreadsheet, so quite easy to use, and we can use a lot of different ontologies on it. And finally, there is tools to facilitate the creation of RDF files, for example, to easily link our data with the semantic web. I don't want to go too much into detail on this, but there is an article published at the end of last year which is really interesting, focusing on software accessibility issues, and it's something I think we all see when we want to try to reproduce results from papers. But here they are really trying to see what happened on the tools, and there is 50% of the tools who are only easy to install, and on the finality of this paper they give some recommendation, and these recommendations are related to sharing and archiving tools software in services like GitHub, for example, and providing the dependencies of your tools, your scripts, using package manager like Conda or things like that. So now I will be more in the detail on the Galaxy E approach. So it's our tools for analysis of data sets and coupling data from biodiversity and remote sensing data, for example. So the idea is to use things like GitHub to manage our code. We can provide DOI on each R script or other software or scripts using Zenodo, because it's quite easy to connect Zenodo to a GitHub repository. Maybe for Dryad, there is something similar for US, for example. And we choose to use the Bioconda package manager to manage our dependencies. So these dependencies are, for example, R package, but this can be also other types of package like Python package or other dependencies like binaries or things like that. And after that, we can create what we call biocontainers. So it's based on containers on Docker or Singularity, where we can encapsulate, in fact, our dependencies and scripts to be sure that the execution can be made as appropriate. And after that, the idea is to propose this bricks of analytics bricks in software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and you can use it on the cloud, on your computer, or on a different manner, in fact, and in command line, or using a graphical user interface. And that's exactly what Galaxy can propose. It's a graphical user interface where you can use scientific tools, softwares on HPC infrastructure, on the cloud if you want, or in your personal computer, and with a high level of reproducibility, of shareability, and something with free and transparency. So as I mentioned before, when we are speaking about this webinar, it was also due to the fact that I am exchanging with people from Ifremer in France, and notably about a manner to test the use of Galaxy to package existing scripts and packages they are using. It's R scripts and R package majority, and to try to put it on Galaxy and see if we can use it for a different kind of user, notably areas manager. I don't know if Dominique Pelletier, but I think maybe she is here, but don't hesitate to speak about the project PAMPA. It's when I saw this project, it's really wonderful because at the origin they made it really based on R script, and they put a graphical user interface on it to really a beautiful effort in terms of reproducibility and also analysis and helping people and users to see which kind of tools they have to use and which kind of models they can apply. And this is really a way where we want to go. So the idea of Galaxy, rapidly, briefly, if you have never seen Galaxy, it's like this, and you have a web page with panels where at the left you have a tools panels, and at the left you have your history where you have your and history of analysis you have made on this data sets. And the idea is you can have different kind of tools. So tools are majority scripts, Python script, R scripts, or others, and also software, like for example Maxent or things like that. And after you can have visualization tools to create box plots, diagrams, or other things like that. The idea to use Galaxy is that we don't have to investigate to put work on the graphical user interface. There is existing interface, there is existing contributors and people working on the graphical user interface and connection with HPC and things like that. There is an existing infrastructure dedicated to training, so we can use it just to create our tutorials. And there is also a lot of things and interesting things we can use. And for example, the manner to use a Dockerized environment on Galaxy. And that's one thing we do. We have worked in the first phases last year to create new tools on Galaxy, so something like 27 new Galaxy tools related to managing air data, NetCDF, or managing GIS dataset, CSV also, so more text manipulation or data treatment, data handling, but also specified dedicated tools related to bat recognition by acoustic files, and tools to import data from occurrences data, for example, from JB for Atlas of Living Australia, and also tools to import data from, for example, WorkClean. So there is a GitHub repo, don't hesitate to look at it. And the idea is we have developed 27 tools, and we are using 81 existing Galaxy tools, who are generic tools existing on Galaxy environment, where we can manipulate text, filter or sort files, graph, display data sets, apply some statistics on the data sets, and also, because Galaxy is more related to bioinformatics at the beginning, a lot of really beautiful tools and workflow dedicated to metagenomics, metabarcoding, for example. This is a key issue for now for our infrastructure, as we begin to have interesting projects related to environmental DNA, for example. Last things maybe is related to these things we have added to the Galaxy platform. before the Galaxy for Ecology project, Galaxy will have never worked with AirShiny apps, and we have created a connector who allow us to propose to users of our Galaxy platform to display different kind of Galaxy shiny apps, in fact. So quite generic shiny apps like for GIS visualization like this, or GIS visualization and data exploration. Here it's GEO Explorer app shiny we have integrated in Galaxy. We have also integrated things like Radiant with shiny apps dedicated to business analytics, or in fact a place where we can display data sets and analyze it and see how we can model the data sets and the variables. And finally, the first contribution we made related to ecology in terms of shiny apps is to integrate and give some amelioration to the existing shiny app Wallace developed by US colleagues for species distribution modeling. So I think I am finished. So I hope it was understandable, and you have all the connection you can see, and maybe ask question if you want now or in further time. But thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Yvan. I hope people got everything. You had a little bit of an audio problem. I don't know if it's when you move a little bit away from the microphone. There seems to be like a back and forth between high and low volume, but most of it was very clear. It's just the volume was sometimes high, sometimes low. But I have some questions, but I wonder also if somebody else in the audience has questions.
This is Mitch Roffer. Thank you for your talk. I learned a lot. So who is your primary audience? Are they strictly the academic researchers, or is the government decision makers, the managers involved? How about the marine industry, like the fishing industry?
Yeah, very good question. In fact, the first try was for citizen science projects. So we were trying to build a system where citizens can access to tools, but it was quite challenging, and maybe the step was too big. And now it's through this PNGB infrastructure. The first goal is to propose tools to services and products to scientists. So clearly now the idea of Galaxy is more to give access to scientists. But the idea is it's the first step, because using Galaxy, we can quite easily give access to data and tools through the web, and people can use it without having any knowledge on computing, programming things, and programming skills. Yeah, programming skills, sorry. So in fact, for example, I tested with students and really young students, and you can have people who want to use it and maybe who are interested to use it, and they can really appropriate, they can learn how to use the tools and the platform. And from now, for example, to go a little bit more on the detail, the main users of the Galaxy E platform are how we call that, a little private company in France who are creating a report for biodiversity state related to bat, notably bat species occurrences, and they are using the workflow who is taking the results of microphone to describe each day or each weeks which species of bat were near the microphone and things like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you producing products on a routine basis, or are you just providing the data and the tools for people to make their own products if they wanted to on a routine basis?
Yeah, good question again. I think it's, for now, we are just providing tools, and people can first use existing workflows, or some people can create workflows they are sharing with other people so they can use it. So it's more related to we give access to people to the tools and the manner to change the tools on the workflows, and they can do this by their own. But in the meantime, we have also with this Galaxy platform the possibility to propose automatic process on, for example, on a folder where we can have automatic update of data sets. We can automatically execute workflows to generate data products. So it's also something we are thinking about.
I think finally, what kind of education and outreach program do you have to other researchers, government, and then the casual user?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
Yes, so sorry. What kind of education and outreach program? How does the public learn about this?
Yeah, for now the idea is to to give trainings with less than 10 people at each session, and we just begin in December. We gave a first training to 10 people. So it's one way to do. The other way is to use the training infrastructure is proposed by Galaxy. So on GitHub, you can search for training material for Galaxy, and there is training by topics, and there is one on ecology. We have for now only two tutorials, but the idea is we are giving tutorials, data sets, and links to the Galaxy instance where the user can just just execute the tutorial, test it, and learn by himself. It's quite well done, because there is a relation with some basic training on how is working Galaxy, for example, and things like that. And in 2 hours, for example, you can quite easily learn how you can use Galaxy, and after in 1 hour using it for species distribution modeling or calculation of some phenology things.
Thank you very much.
This is Ben Best, and it was a really interesting presentation. Thank you so much. I really like seeing the integration of Docker and GitHub and EML, and I guess I was curious that there was an example, I think it was on slide 31, of species distribution modeling, which is particularly relevant to our MBON community. Was that Wallace, and have you done have you, for instance, used this Galaxy environment to run a lot of species distribution models?
So it's not really clear for me if I quite understand the question, but I will try to make a good answer. Regarding species distribution modeling, that's true that we have made the try to integrate the Wallace Shiny apps on Galaxy to use it, and for now that we are proposing. So the manner we have how we have made this, it's to contact the team who have developed Wallace, and we just say, oh, it's really cool, your app. Apparently SDM using Wallace is something quite interesting, at least for training and others. And we have a way to put it on a website and give access to a lot of different users. And the first things is to Dockerize the Shiny app. So we made a contribution to the Wallace project on GitHub to propose a Dockerized version, and the Wallace team was quite happy about that. And after that, once the Shiny app is containerized, it's quite easy to integrate it on Galaxy. And now, each time a user is using Galaxy, he can choose on the Shiny app folder, something like that. He can use, for example, the Wallace and deploy its own Shiny app, Wallace Shiny app, and work on it on his data.
That's really cool. we've been in touch with the Wallace folks too, because it was originally set up in a way to use I think it's the World Climb environmental data to do the predictions as the predictors for the observations of the species. So we were, I think we set up a GitHub issue that was related to using something called the SDM predictors, which is an R package, and it's also called BioOracle, that takes a whole massive suite of predictors, and it was developed by Samuel Bosch and others. So Samuel Bosch is with the OBIS group. So this is something that is definitely of interest with our group for progressing, and certainly getting the computational availability to run this on, let's say, a regular basis is of interest. Is the Galaxy project, is it something where do you allow users to schedule runs, let's say once a month, or as new data becomes available, and then maybe update data sets, like using EML onto Data One or onto OBIS, or things like that? Is that something that you've looked at as well?
Yes, it's clearly something we can do, and to go further on this SDM things, the integration of Wallace Shiny App was made more for a proof of concept, and the idea now is to create a complete SDM workflows, working more on what I call classical Galaxy Tools integration, so not using a whole Shiny App, but more in integration, integrating each step of, for example, the Shiny App, each script, each R script to, for example, one tools to take data sets, occurrences data sets from GBIF, Atlas of Lingua Australia, or others. One tools for importing data set coming from remote sensing or things like that, for Copernicus, for example. And after that, one tools to make the prediction, and in fact to have the possibility as user to really go into the details, as when you are on your R script, to modify the variables and the package you want to use and things like that. And that's the way we want to go now. Now that this first proof of concept is really done and well done, we will go on a new phases where we have to create a lot of new tools and update these tools, and have building communities of users, but of contributors too.
So the idea there, if I understand correctly, is that you want to separate the visualization from the analysis when you have to schedule things. I mean, you don't need a graphical user interface like Wallace. You run the code to actually update the data.
Yeah, exactly. Because in fact, Wallace is really really a good tool, a good Shiny App, and it's really interesting. I think that we will continue to integrate new version of Wallace and things like that. But I think there is also a lot of users who need to have more possibility to change to combine their own workflows, maybe combining different manner to explore the data or to create the model and things like that. And we want to really go towards more flexibility and propose another road without a lot of graphical things, but only computing, in fact.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Along those lines, Yvan, what's the scope of your project? You're working with the French MBON, so the French have established a national MBON. We have a thematic MBON, so the Marine Biodiversity Observation Network is intended to be global and help network many different countries. And, some countries are setting up their own bonds. And so there's kind of a network of bonds that we have to manage. Colombia is setting up its own bond, and there are different ways of doing this. So I wonder if we think about a tool like this for species distribution model that can be global in scope for the oceans. I assume you're doing both marine and terrestrial, right?
Mm-hmm.
How,
Yes.
how can we think? How can we scope something like this that can be of use to a very broad number of people?
Yeah, I think the idea, in fact, behind Galaxy E, it's more to say to people, and it's more related to research communities in ecology in France. I see that there is a lot of expertise, a lot of data scientists and people working with R scripts, but there is a lack of sharing scripts, and maybe there is a lot of reinventing the wheel and things like that. And I think behind Galaxy, it's not really Galaxy the more important. It's when we want to integrate something into Galaxy, we need to have open source scripts who are shared and where we manage the reproducibility of the process. So in fact, it's a win-win for each people who want to work with R scripts. He can just create R scripts who is reproducible and who can be shared with other people. And after that, if we want to put it on Galaxy, it's not a lot of effort. So the idea of the discussion I have with, for example, for Eurogeos and things like that is just working on the creation of contributors of, in fact, analytics bricks, so R scripts, but in a way that you need to have something clear in terms of license, of open source or not, of reproducibility. You need to put an effort to be reproducible and things like that. And after that, we have a solution to propose a graphical interface we can propose to people. I don't know if it's the answer of the question, but the idea is more to promote, in fact, a good way of fairization, things related notably to analysis.
Yeah, I think we will continue that conversation offline with maybe Ben Best and whoever is interested in this group. There are some questions that were posed in the chat, so I want to make sure that people get some answers. Nuno Simoes doesn't have a microphone, so he hopes that the presentation can be shared, and I think that we will share the recording of this presentation through the GeoBond page at least. I don't know if you have a way to share the PowerPoint itself. Also, Valentina Costa from Portugal wonders if the platform will be available at the end of your project.
Valentina Costa, okay, yeah, I see on the chat. Sorry, I am checking the chat. Will be available after. Yes, in fact, all the effort I was putting on Galaxy last year is to make something who can be owned by the European Galaxy instance. In fact, in Europe, in US, and in Australia, there is node. International nodes to have their own use Galaxy instance. And the idea is that ecology tools will be available on the three use Galaxy instance. So in US, in Australia, and in Europe. So even if the project is finished, the existing tools will be proposed in this general Galaxy instance. International Galaxy instance. So first of all, in the European usegalaxy.eu platform, so normally in April.
Great. Yvan, when you work with marine biodiversity data, do you work and link directly with OBIS also? You mentioned GBIF at the beginning, I believe.
Yeah. In fact, with Orbis, I just made some proof of concept. I don't have created a tool in Galaxy to import directly dataset from Orbis because, in fact, it's not mandatory because it's quite easy to take the data. For example, in Galaxy, you can just put an FTP link or an HTTP link towards the data to import the data. And with Orbis, it's quite easy to take the dataset and into Galaxy and after that analyze it.
And you're integrating satellite data also at the same time. So you're trying to do both the visualizations and analysis using the in situ and the satellite data?
Yes, yes. For now, it's quite the same. For example, for Copernicus data, it's quite easy to take the URL from one data set in NetCDF or shapefile or something like that, and put it on Galaxy and import the data set into your history. And after we're dealing with that. So I don't create dedicated tools for Copernicus, something like that, but it's on the roadmap, and particularly if we have community of users who want to have clear manner to access datasets and maybe filters, for example, for Orbis or other, it can be of interest to exchange and to create a dedicated tool for that.
So, but you don't have an actual application yet that is applied in management context at this point so far?
No. Just user can take the data and upload and upload the data on the Galaxy.
Okay. Are there other questions? Well, if there's no questions for Yvan, maybe we can talk a little bit about other things that are happening with MBON. One is that, as you probably have seen, that there is a call for Blue Planet, which is another GEO initiative, to host nodes for the Secretariat. So there's many different types of nodes. And one of the nodes is a marine biodiversity node, which we're working with Blue Planet to make a Secretariat for MBON. So the call for proposals for these nodes or for the MBON Secretariat, I'm going to paste it into the chat box here. That's been advertised. It's been advertised since early December, and we're looking for input. Now, one thing that has happened that is very interesting is the government of the Azores is establishing Atlantic Interactions or International Research Center, and as part of that, the government of the Azores is very interested in marine biodiversity, but with applications, so practical applications in fisheries, aquaculture, coastal city management, and coastal and marine spatial planning in general. And they are very interested in proposing to be the MBON Secretariat. So that this is actually happening right now. It's in discussions. They're trying to develop a proposal to respond to the Blue Planet and MBON request for input for nodes in the Secretariat for MBON. But I think that we should pay attention to what is going on, and also if anybody else has suggestions or ideas for who else may be interested in hosting people that can contribute to an MBON Secretariat, we'd like to hear about that. But this is happening, and we wonder how or whether you're interested in helping set that up. We're thinking that if Portugal is successful in putting together a proposal in the next few weeks, that we may have to organize an excursion to the Azores to train people that they will hire. They're talking about hiring up to 7 people to dedicate to different aspects of marine biodiversity, including doing these kinds of things like we're doing now, hosting webinars and putting out newsletters and just doing the secretarial stuff, but also doing data analysis and developing applications very much along the ways that we've talked here, and supporting the international community and making those available. So basically doing outreach and training. But a lot of that would have to happen in the Azores. So the question is, can we organize meetings in the Azores and work with the government there and the government of Portugal to make this function and really be a very powerful international hub for marine biodiversity? anyway, so I wonder if you have comments on this. I'm very curious about your ideas.
This is Mitch Roffer. The Azores is a very pleasant place to visit. Good food, good seafood, good wine. It may not be as easy to get to, let's say, as Lisbon or other places on the mainland, but Azores is a lovely place.
Yeah, I agree with you. The one thing that is going to be an issue is getting there if we have meetings in the Azores, but it is centrally located in the middle of the Atlantic. It does have the support of the European community as an extended territory and faraway place. So they seem to be getting the resources to make this happen. So we'll see. I mean, all of this is still very early in the proposal stage, but they're moving very fast and very aggressively to make something happen.
Are they asking for specific things from you, Frank, or from the MBON community? Or is it more just a general invitation?
They asked me for ideas on position descriptions, and so I submitted. I can share that with other people if you want, Ben, if you want to see that. They're going to hire. I asked them also if the positions that were going to be available would allow international applications, basically people from not just the Azores to apply, and they say yes. It seems like most of the positions, basically 5 or 6 of the positions would be postdoc level, but maybe up to 2 positions, maybe a more senior level, which I insisted it was really important because you need to have a person with some credibility and some seniority to manage a number of postdocs. But the bulk of the money seems to be for postdoc level positions. So it's going to be an interesting process to organize that and to make sure that it functions in an autonomous fashion. Yeah, good questions, Ben. But if you want to see what I suggested, let me know. I'll copy, or anybody, I can copy the type of positions descriptions that I suggested. But it's still very open. I mean, I have not heard back on a reply on what they think of my suggestions. Basically, people, for example, that know programming and coding and exactly the kinds of things that we just talked about. People that know GIS, people that understand remote sensing, and that can also have a background in biodiversity in the marine area. So those are going to be people that if those people exist, obviously, because we have some of you on the call, and yet the positions are going to be in the Azores, so moving people there, it has to be. So we need to find people that are willing to move to the Azores and that have these skills. So if you have ideas and names, that's something that we should probably start talking about soon.
Yeah, I can follow up with you, Frank.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ben.
More detail. Yeah.
Those are the things that I had in mind right now at the moment. Are there any other issues that anybody wants to mention? Any other news or announcements? Well, if not, then I want to thank Yvan for the presentation, and hopefully we can stay engaged through MBON and make closer links to the French bond. I see Enrique Montes was on the call. We're trying to also see how we organize regional MBON efforts, and I don't know if through the French bond we can do that. I mean, I don't know how the French bond extends out to the territories, for example, in the Pacific Islands or to the Caribbean territories. It would be very interesting to see how we can work with island nations that are under the French government to establish regional bond efforts, regional marine bond efforts. Do you have those contacts, Yvan?
Yeah, yes, I think I'm not a specialist of that, and I think, for example, with people from the PAMPA project, we can discuss about that. But clearly, there is concern around this questions, and in Pacific notably. So if we can create links, it can be really something interesting, I think, yeah, to consider. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So very good. So if you have ideas or names, please send them to me and to the group or to Enrique Montes and see how we can work together.
Yes.
Yeah, also keep in mind that Mark Costello from the University of New Zealand, I think you know him, Ivan, is already trying to organize a Asia Pacific MBON from pole to pole. So if you see opportunities for the French islands in the Pacific to join that effort, that'd be great.
This is Dominique Pelletier speaking. Hi. I have coordinated the PAMPA project and another 6-year project in New Caledonia, and I have connections with many people from the French overseas territories, and also data sets. And by the way, I'm also chairing the coral reef working group in the Society for Conservation Biology. So these are different opportunities that we can use to connect with these people from the islands.
That would be great, Dominique. If you can send an email to, you know Mark Costello?
Yes, in fact, I spent 2 months in Auckland in April, and I met Mark, and we discussed about biodiversity data sharing and all this. Yes.
Okay, and in the context of establishing a regional MBON effort in the Asia Pacific?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Wonderful. No, that's good. Excellent. So good.
The I don't know. This might be more of a side conversation, but I was struck that so there was this Sustainable Development Goal 14, Life in the Sea effort to develop a manual that I got invited to join a meeting in Dakar, Senegal in November, and what was interesting was that there's a lot of people from island nations and describing how they lacked a lot of the technical capacity to answer the SDG 14 targets, and it seems like there's this sort of the stuff that's been described like with PAMPA and with Galaxy, and I did a little effort to show how they can use globally available data sets to report on what's in their own backyard, and then all they have to do is fork the repository on GitHub and then set up Travis to run it, and they don't even have to install the software locally on their machine. And I think that this technical there's inevitably a lot to understand to get this stuff to run, but if there's some help with folks like from the Galaxy project or MBON, it can allow that technical capacity to happen, to have that reporting to happen on a much more global basis with these island nations that say that they generally lack technical capacity. And I think that role could fit nicely with MBON regional nodes, and it's something that I'd like to, continue the discussion about how we can promote that.
Then that would be an incredibly good role for this group if it gets established in the Azores. And so let's make sure that we follow up on that.
Yeah. There's, we could do a webinar with that group that I had the meeting with, and it tends to be a little bit more on like the diplomat side and the communication side, and I felt like I was the only data scientist person. So yeah, it would be, and there's some training that's involved, and I could share a little bit about how that works. But yeah, it would be cool to see this stuff happen in a larger scale.
Great. Please follow up with me, Ben, so that we make that connection with this group in the Azores. I think in finding the right type of person that can help document this in a way that is practical would be really critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, very good. We're almost up into the hour, so I'm about to close the call, but if I want to give anybody an opportunity for any last comments. Well, if no new comments, I wish everybody a very great new year, and thank you very much for participating. And I'm glad to see that the spheres and the boundaries of MBON are expanding. But please stay engaged. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.